Welcome back to another episode of Bass Fishing for Noobs here on the Paddle and Fin podcast. I am one of the hosts of the Noob Show, Sean Lavery. My co-host Susie is still traveling at the moment, and she might jump in later if she can. But otherwise, we wish her a good Super Bowl Sunday, and she will be back next week. But I wanted to, hop on and get something recorded for tomorrow. And my guest tonight was gracious enough to accept my invitation on relatively short notice. He has been on the news show before, but it's been a while. He was back. He was on the show back when it was Ryan and I doing the show. So that gives you a little bit of a clue how long ago it was. It's been a little bit of a little bit of time since he's been on, but I've been following him along with him on his social media, and I could see that he's still actively fishing despite how cold the weather it gets, and being successful. So I reached out to him and asked if he could come on and share some of his wintertime or cold water techniques and tips with us, and he was gracious enough to accept. So I wanted to take a second and welcome back Mr. Jim Ware to the news show. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, man. Great to be here.
No problem. Thanks again for coming on. So I know you mentioned you had a tournament yesterday. How'd that go?
Not too good. Yeah,
Not too good.
had a decent practice, and then yesterday the weather changed, and it poured down rain probably 3/4 of the time. I ended up with 4 fish. It was on Lake Seminole. It was a Georgia Bass Nation. And we have a grassroots club in the state called Peach State Kayak Anglers. And
Okay.
so it was a combined tournament for them. Had 68, I think, signed up. So it was a pretty good turnout.
I was going to say, that's a pretty good showing for February.
Yeah, sure was. But man, I think the top 10 there was, or maybe the top 7, all in the 90 plus inches.
Wow.
Josh Counts, he's from down in that area. He won it with 99 inches.
Holy cow.
I was punching, and yesterday on practice, I had some really good bites. An area I went back to punch, I pulled 13 inches out.
Yeah,
I don't know where the big ones
add up to 99 inches, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, but I had fun, and it was, it was fun.
What
Better
was
than work.
Well, yeah, exactly. Any day. What was your water temperatures like?
It was 56 where I was at. Lake Seminole's a unique lake. It's got 2 river arms feeding it, the Flint and the Chattahoochee. Both of those were probably around the same water temp, and I was on the Hooch side with the mid 50s water temp, and then in the middle of the center of the Y where the Flint comes in and the Hooch, you have Spring Creek. Well, all that water is fed by springs, and the water's generally clearer and warmer in that center area.
Okay.
And it was in the 60s, I understood from other guys. Wow. But I don't think it was one in that warmer water. I think it was in one of the river arms.
Interesting. Well, I know you have been having some luck lately, despite and how cold is it there? When I say cold, it's always relative. Like our water temperatures here in Pennsylvania are, high 30s maybe.
Okay.
We're gonna have a few warmer days next week where it's gonna get up in the 60s. So I'm hoping we're gonna break the 40-degree mark, but it's gonna take a couple warm days in a row to get us up above that.
Right. So about 46, 44 around here where I was fishing at, it's the lowest I've seen it. Now we did have a really cold spell, and unfortunately I was working during that time, so I couldn't even fish. But buddies of mine said it got into high 30s where we fish at. But this wintertime fishing in the south, it's 50 degrees. It seems like 50 when the water hit temp after turnover, the lakes turn over, and the water temp hits 50 degrees. That's the magic temp. That's when they start getting active again, and settle in, and that's when I took the second week of December off for vacation just because of that.
Okay.
Historically, that's been the prime time.
Gotcha. Okay. And for the folks who don't know what turnover means, can you just explain that a little
Yeah,
bit and how you know when that happens?
right. So in down here in the south, I'm sure they do up north, but the lake's stratified in the summertime, and so you've got photosynthesis, and so the sunlight can only reach down so far. And there's not going to be any oxygen lower than that. Well, the water down here is generally it just told me my earbuds are about to go out. So, but anyway, so summertime, say the top 20 feet of the water is above the stratic line is at 20 feet. You've got, once it starts cooling, cold water's heavier than warm, so it starts cooling off and it's heavier and it starts falling, and it pushes this muck water from down below with no oxygen. It pushes it and it mixes. Well, I say the fish get a headache when all that's going on, because it's hard, really, really tough when the lake is turning over. And you can even see the water will change color, and it'll look kind of funky on top. It'll have a muck look to it, at least where I fish, the lakes I fish.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it cools off, it's in the 50s. The water clears up because the algae can't bloom in this colder water, and the water gets clear and sunlight can reach down to 40 feet. And once there we go. That's my unscientific way to describe
No, I think that's perfect.
turnover.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so after that turnover happens, then that's when the fishing kind of turns on again.
Yeah, it's and I'm not sure. So in wintertime, it's all about the bait, and if you know what the bait is doing, and threadfin shad's basically what we have, and there's some gizzard shad, and gizzard tend to go a lot deeper, but threadfin's the major forage fish around here. Well, they'll just gang up in schools, and like one of the lakes I fish on doesn't have a feeder creek per se, so they gang up over the deepest holes in the lake, which is about 40 feet. And well, the bass, they know that, and they go to those deep holes. And in some of these highland reservoir lakes in North Georgia, the shad will run up into these creek arms and gang up, and the fish know that, and they'll follow them. So just knowing what the bait generally does, and when it gets cold, can help you in big ways, because
Right.
they're not gonna be where the bait's not.
Right. So you really gotta find the bait first, and then that'll help you
Yeah,
find the bass. You're
yeah.
not gonna just kind of stumble upon bass spread out and just kind of fan casting or that.
Right. Not and not in these, like these bass will school up in some major schools, and yeah, they're not going to be schooled up when the bait's not around. I haven't seen it. Now they may be, they might try. I don't know what they do between, when they're suspended during turnover, because that's generally what they do. They'll suspend, and they're really, really hard to catch. Once they group back up, and you may see them in a void area. I don't know. But
Yeah, you
I
might pick
always
one
find
off
them.
here and there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but and they're not always on the bait. Now I've found like a giant school of shad, and there's no fish around it, but I'll start circling around, and searching, and side imaging is huge in this. And, it may be 50, 75 yards away, and then bingo, there they are. Sometimes they're just sitting down on the bottom. They're not active, and a spoon is going to help you, because it's a reaction bait, reaction bite when they hit it. And throw that spoon out, let it sink to the bottom, and just rip it through the school. Sometimes it takes 6, 8, 10 casts, to get one to go after it. Once one goes for the bait, it seems like all of them like, no, you're not going to get that. I'm getting it. So,
So basically, and I know you sent me some examples of what to kind of look for on your side imaging and stuff. Basically, you're finding the bait, and then you back off from that spot, find your side imaging, and then
yeah, they just went dead to me.
I hear you. Yeah, I can still pick you up some though.
Okay, good.
There we go. Yep, it just kind of picked them up again, so I can hear you.
All right, good.
But yeah, so we'll put this up on the screen, and you can kind of talk me through kind of what we're looking at here.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share this. So that was the first picture you sent me, which is a heck of a nice bass. And is there any story behind that guy?
Yeah, there is. So smallmouth, obviously. That's on Del Hollow, and that's in the middle of December, I think, around the 19th of December. The water temp up there was like 42 when that day. Those fish, and I wouldn't say I know Del Hollow, but I know that spot, and I know this one area, and it's about a 4-hour drive from here, and that's the southernmost part of it. Closest drive for me. There's a roadbed between me, probably right under me in that pit, and there's an old building foundation. Well, if you look at the maps of Del Hollow, there is roadbeds everywhere, and there's several towns that are actually underwater.
Wow!
And they scuba dive up there. It's a popular scuba diving area. But anyway, this road bass love hard bottom and structure, and there's a lot of these building foundations. There's about 3 on that roadbed, and they were ganged up there. So this fish, I caught everyone. I had 94 inches, I believe, for my 5 biggest that day, and that's a wobblehead jig. And I thought I brought one in, but I don't. That's a Picasso Fantasy Swinger, 3/4 ounce, with a rage bug on it. And that is the easiest bait to use for like deep. Around rock, it seems like that crawl bait. When there's a lot of rock structure, that works well. All I was doing is just bomb casting out past this school of fish that I found. They were sitting just on the deep side of the roadbed, which the roadbed comes up and over a submerged point, and they were on the point, just still on that point, but on the deep side of the roadbed.
Okay.
And you just reel that thing slow and maintain bottom contact with it. Keep it moving, and when they hit, you lose. You'll feel like it's not touching anything. It'll just go light.
Okay.
And I speed up my reeling, and sure enough, your rod loads up, and lean into it.
Awesome.
But,
And so you knew where the roadbed was. I imagine you had that marked, and so you just went to the roadbed, then found the school above the roadbed, and then started casting to the school.
Yeah, that's it. And I would just circle around the school, and they would kind of float. That's how they would be on this side of it or that side. And they might be a little deeper, and they might move a little closer. I also caught one on a
a big one on a spy bait, and I thought I brought one of those in. But anyway, it's a jackall alpha 98, I think is what it was.
Okay.
Um, and I saw those fish had come up off the bottom, so I threw that spy bait out there and caught. But
And then and that's actually one of the baits that I have had luck with now, and I say luck with. I've caught two fish so far this year, but one of
right,
them was on a spy bait. So, I was using a blade bait on the bottom, and I kept getting pulling up grass. Just almost every cast, I'd be hopping it, and then I'd lose my vibration, and so I'd reel it back in and have to clean grass and stuff off of it. I was like, man, I want to just stay just above that grass. So I was
right,
trying to think of what I had with me that I could throw and then count down and kind of know I was close to the bottom but above the grass. And I switched to the spy bait, and I was using a Duo Realis one a spy bait, and
that yeah, it's you're right. It's not a jackal, it's a duo alpha
okay,
98. I think I'm
okay,
sorry,
yep. I was gonna
it's a
say I
duo.
thought so, but and man, that really helped me stay out of the grass, and I credit that with helping me catch that fish because I the blade bait I had heard was working well, but I just couldn't find a spot that didn't have that I wasn't having to clean off constantly.
Right.
So
And in that picture, you can that particular day it was almost dead calm, uh, hardly any chop on the water, and that wobblehead jig and a football jig would have worked also, but I really like. Seems like I had a better hook up ratio with a swing head jig, but and it's not creating a lot of commotion, and with the water dead calm like that, in my experience, that bait just crawling slowly across the bottom um, draws bites. And then when they lifted up off and I saw them out there had come up off the bottom, it seems like a spy bait works well instead of a rattling lipless or a crankbait with a lot of wobble to it. Um, that spy bait just been almost finessey,
hmm,
swims through the water, and
yep.
and even that jig being 3/4 ounce, that's still a finesse type bait because it's not uh, noisy or
I was going to
too
ask.
fast moving
I
or
I'd
anything.
heard you say 3/4. Is that more just to maintain bottom contact, or
Yeah,
is that why you're so heavy?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And if I were, I go and I'll do like okay, 1 ounce. I would do say if I was 30, 35 feet deep, it's easier to maintain bottom contact. Plus, I can cast it a lot further, and the angle you'll have if you're say 35 feet deep of water. The further out you cast it, the less of an angle on your line from the rod to the
That makes a
yeah
lot of
the bait.
sense. Right, right. That's what's always throws me off with a drop shot when I'm casting it because you think that you have your drop shot to your weight is a foot, but when you cast it out at an angle, that foot gets
Yeah,
drastically reduced.
yeah, and it, the further out because you're going to back off because the target is here at 40 foot deep. Well, you can't be 40 feet away from it and fish it effectively. You get 70 feet, then you can get that really good drag through the school before it starts. You're almost sitting right on top of it,
Right,
and the bait
right.
doesn't do right then. It does a lot better with less of an angle on the or more of an angle, excuse me. But so 30, 35, 35, 40 feet, I'm going, or 30 to say 40, I'll do a 1 ounce, 30 to 20, 18 maybe, 3/4 ounce. And then once I get, that's a half ounce. Uh, and that's normally in the springtime, they start moving up you'll catch them. Or I'll do a half ounce when it's 10 feet deep. I don't normally go less than a half ounce with that wobblehead jig.
Okay.
But that.
And what kind of rod are you throwing that on? Like a jig rod?
Yeah, a 7. The 1 ounce and a 3/4, I'll throw it's a 7.6 as a G Loomis, a heavy action, 20-pound test. Pretty much always. And up there at Del Hollow, it's really clear water, and I had 20-pound test on that. They didn't care.
We're heading to Dale Hollow. I think the 22nd and 23rd of April. So I'm looking forward to getting back there to fish.
Right. I love that lake. I really, really love it. It's beautiful.
It is.
It looks to me, it doesn't look like a man-made reservoir. It looks like it should be natural. Kind of like a western lake. It's got those rock sandstone bluffs.
Yep.
And but yeah, I love it. But yeah, the line weight, I know there's a time and a place for 4-pound test or 6-pound test, but like I said, it was dead calm. I probably could have definitely caught them with a drop shot, with a 6-pound test leader and super finesse, but they were eating it with a 20-pound.
Yeah, if they're eating it, why change it up? Right. Now with your spy bait, I would guess you'd go considerably lighter, right?
Yeah, I did. I had a 10-pound fluoro on that, and I actually bought a rod and reel specifically and that spy bait I was throwing. That Duo makes one for a bait caster, and I think it's that 98. I swear I thought I brought it. I brought the thing. I did. It's right here. So it's the spinbait 72 Alpha is what it's called, and it's so the one. Let's see, the 98, I believe, is long and really thin.
Mm-hmm.
This is fat, a little heavier. I think it's a half ounce.
Okay.
But you can throw this with it's made for a bait caster.
Gotcha.
So I've got a 7.2 as a G Loomis IMAX Pro, I believe, crankbait rod, the medium action. You got a moderate tip, and I've got a Corrado 70, and I'll put 10-pound fluoro on it, and just to throw that bait, that's and he can you can throw that, launch it a mile with it.
I actually lost one of my Duo Rail spy baits on an overpass. I was casting and it went way farther than I thought, and it ended up on the overpass. And I'm hoping it didn't hit a car or anything, but I won't mention the place just in case it did.
But yeah, I've got two spinning rods I use. One for drop shot and one for smaller swim baits. And this is really simple. I'm going to show you a bait here, and this is the Mega Bass Okashira.
Oh yeah, I am very familiar with that head.
Okay, that thing is money on these spot lakes down, Alabama spotted bass down here.
And what do you have it paired up with there?
On a spinning rod with
okay.
And I'll use 6-pound test on the
gotcha
leader. And I got like 15-pound braid or 10. It's really thin braid, but yeah, that's really good on around those schools of bait. If you see the fish come up in it, they'll eat that thing in a heartbeat. But
now, are you counting that down to get to a certain depth, or how are you judging your depth there?
Yeah, I'll I've got live scope and I'll watch it go down
Gotcha.
there. But before I got live scope, I would just count, say 12, or, and it's pretty light. They don't make this, I think, is it 1/8 ounce is the heaviest head that they make of that. So it takes it falls really slow. And I've had quite a few fish hit just on the fall because it'll kind of spin, swim in a circle going down. And next thing you know, it's stopped moving. Your line stops moving. You're like, what the heck just happened? It's 30 feet deep out there. Start reeling, and then you see it moving, and there's a fish on.
Nice. I know that's generally how a tube falls. A tube, they always say, spirals like that.
Right.
And that's the action that makes a tube successful. So it makes sense that it would work for that as well.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what was going on up there on Del Hall at that time. It was a roadbed and a deal, and with a school smallmouth on it, and that jig was money. That thing.
Gotcha. The wobblehead. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to show some of these other side imaging and radar, the fish finder screens that you had, and explain kind of what we're looking at. If you don't
Okay.
mind. So I'll bring up this first one here, and so and this is side imaging, and you're looking out.
That's side imaging. Now this school fish right here, I was explaining. A buddy of mine that just really got into kayak fishing. Bought him up. He had bass boat fish, but he upgraded his electronics and was fishing where on this lake close to the house. And I just sent that to him. So this is like 20, 25 feet deep. The bait, he was telling me he had found a really big school bait, but he didn't catch any fish on it. And there was, and I said, just start doing circles like I'd said until you find, this school. I said, they're out there. They're somewhere close to that bait. And I said, on your side imaging, when you see this, and those are, I can guarantee you those were bass because I caught them. But, yeah, those pieces of rice is what it looks like with a little shadow behind them. And the shadow being, if you were to blow that thing up, the shadow, the closer the shadow is to the white speck, the closer to the bottom they are. And those fish are laying right on the bottom.
No, that makes sense.
When you see something like that, first it can be other fish. I saw on Lake Kissimmee 2 years ago. I was going across there and it was like 12 feet deep, and I saw something that looked almost identical to that picture. And I thought, oh Lord, it's going to be on. And I drug everything I had through it, to swim baits, jigs, or whatever. I never got a bite. And I wasn't sure. I don't know what they were. They were fish because they weren't there the next day. But tilapia, something. They weren't bass. But anyway, when I see that here, and I'm sure that they're back, I'm going to throw a spoon and on them is one thing. And this is the spoon that I love to throw. It's a Dixie Jet. It's a 3-inch, and it's 3/4 ounce. Dixie Jets, I think, are made in Missouri. Tackle Warehouse has them, and then you order them straight from the website. But to me, it's got the perfect size to weight ratio. There's a lot of there's a lot of smaller spoons. This is a small spoon, but there'll be 5/8 or ½ ounce. Well, it takes forever, it seems like, for those things to hit the bottom. And this falls, gets down pretty quick, and then you can work it. And I mean, I've caught a lot of fish on this. Matter of fact, this one, I don't know if you can see, I'll get it right there. it's beat to crap. You know, it's
that looks pretty chewed on. Yeah.
yeah, it's but so I'll throw that spoon out there and rip it, see if I can't get a bite. And you know, if they bite, I'm going to leave the spoon on. But normally the first thing I'll throw on a school like that is, when they're 20, 25 feet deep, I'm going to throw that spoon. Because, and here's the deal. There's a school, shad, 50 yards away or 75 yards away. And I know that's what those things are feeding on out there. I've thrown a jig on them, and the only way I can get bit with a jig is I put a swimbait body on the of it. On that wobble head. You can put a Kitech on there, say a 3.8 or whatever, or 4.2, whatever the next size up from a 3.8 is, and drag it, and you can catch fish doing that. But it doesn't do the same thing that the spoon does. The spoon, when they bite that spoon, they go into a feeding frenzy. You fire this school up. You're not going to fire them up with a jig. But that spoon, you're going to fire those things up. And if you've got a buddy with you and you can keep a bait in the water, and it just extends the fun. But
I've heard of activating the school before, and I've never experienced it. But I've heard that, once you get them going, then I've also heard, if you can keep them going, they'll hit darn near anything at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll pull every fish off the bottom. There won't be any fish on the, that picture you just showed. Once they start biting, you're not going to see that. You're just going to see like lines. That's what it looks like. There'll be like white lines on your side everywhere.
Gotcha.
Or on the down imaging, same deal. But and then on I don't have a picture of sonar, but I remember the first time I had bought an Eagle depth finder. I don't even know if they make those. Lowrance made them. It was kind of off-brand for a cheaper model for a Lowrance. But I bought it just because this one had GPS, and I thought I could get waypoints and use it for that. But it didn't have side image; it had down image. And I came across, it was in the wintertime, and I came across some bait down there, and then all of a sudden there's these, it looked like streaks just on top of streaks, and I was like, what in the world is that? And I've heard people refer to them as noodles. It looks like a pile of noodles. And I dropped a little it's called a Flexit jig. It's a little painted white, it's like a slab jig, maybe a half ounce. It got a piece of prism tape on the side of it. Anyway, it's really popular on some of these mountain lakes in Georgia. And I flipped it out there and dropped it, and it didn't even hit the bottom. It was spotted bass. And I was like, and it made sense then that, when you're looking now, if they're moving, it's not going to, it's going to look like a streak. And,
right.
So, that was a huge schooling moment for me. Then I was like, oh, and every time I see it to this day, I know exactly what it is. And wintertime fishing, lots of people hate it. I was like, I can't, but I'm not going to say great electronics, but good electronics and practice. And there's several, YouTube videos and people talking about how to read electronics, how to set them up, what a bass looks like, and Fish to Moment's one of them that I've watched. And
yes,
in my opinion, I learned a lot from him just looking at, watching that Fish to Moment. He, like, where you're moving and you see fish, well, they're not, when you stop, they're not still there. How far back are they? And
right. That really helped me, that video where he kind of laid it out. I think he put like a milk crate behind his boat on the dry land
Yeah.
and showed, this is where that milk crate would be on the screen,
Yep. So being confident in what you're seeing on your electronics is fish is the number one key for me for winter fishing, because when I see a school like that, and like I said, it may take 8 or 10 casts. A lot of times 3 casts and 3 or 4 casts with a lure, and you don't catch anything, go on. But I'm confident enough to know I'll sit there for a long time and try to get them to bite. And a lot of times it works, sometimes it doesn't. But confidence in your electronics is number one key.
How hard would you say it is to stay in the vicinity of the school? Like how far and quickly do the schools move?
You know, I would say 2 basketball court. You know, they'll float around, 50, 75 yards one way or another. I've never not been able to find them. Once I find a school like this, they start biting and then they stop and say I move on to another area and go to a creek mouth or something like that and come back. I generally can find them again. It just
Okay.
take covering some water, but they normally stay in a general area. I've never this lost. I like Tennessee River type, they may move a good bit more there. I don't know about up north, like Great Lakes or something like that. They may move a lot further, but in these North Georgia mountain lakes, in a creek arm, there's only they're not going to go 100 feet. They're not going to. They may, but if you're catching them on a point and 20 to 40 feet deep, well, there's 6 more points inside that creek arm. They're probably going to be somewhere on one of those points or in between them. And you can pull your map up and you say, okay, I'm going to start checking and I'm going to hit that 20 to 40 foot mark on each one of those points going down. And when I go in the troughs between the points where it drops to 70 or 80 feet deep or whatever, I'm going to be looking there too. You may find them in there, but they're going to be in general. Look at your map, see. They're not on this point anymore, so let's go check this next point out towards the lake. They're probably going to be somewhere in a light.
Now, when you're searching for the bait balls, are you using down imaging to find the bait ball and then switch to side to find the bass around them, or are you running side the whole time?
Side, and I'll have my screen split into 3 windows. Map on the bottom left, I got my map. Bottom right is going to be down imaging, and then the entire top half is side. And I use side imaging, and it's all. I don't use sonar for ever.
Okay.
I know a lot of buddies who they love. They use sonar. You can see your lure. Do the video game type stuff, but I don't use it. I don't generally never use sonar.
Okay. Well, let's grab one more, another one of these images. Maybe you can say, explain what we're seeing here. Let me add this. There we go. So that looks just like another kind of school off to the right there.
Yeah, there's some structure on the left-hand side. You can see that it's rock, what it is.
Okay.
And I had switched, went to straight side image just to get a better picture of it. Down imaging, there's fish. There was fish I could see sitting on the bottom on my down imaging. But yeah, that's a similar scope as to what the picture you showed earlier, the one prior to this.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just out from that rock laying there, and bass aren't going to be okay. And this one, that's a brim bait.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So this is November, and brim generally don't bed in November. At least here they don't. But when you see, like, on your side imaging, it looks like, the cover of a golf ball, those divots. That's key. Oh, okay. So a brim bed is going to be the cleanest area on the bottom in that area.
Mhm.
The brim, they've cleaned it out, and bass love it. It's like a little oasis, and if you got muck on the bottom here and there, that's why they love road beds. It's cleaner than what's off to the side north, that hard bottom.
Mhm.
And every one of those shell cracker beds, they're big. That's a bass sitting inside one of those. That's it. Like you follow 2 years ago at the TOC, and I was catching them on drop shot. Now they wasn't big enough to win the TOC, but it was fun. I dragged that drop shot. I cast the drop shot out, had a flatworm on it, and just drag it. And once you feel it when you get in those brim beds, you'd actually feel your weight go down.
Drop down a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But yeah, brim. I love finding a brim bed like that too, and that was in like 12 foot of water. Shell crackers generally bed deeper than a bluegill.
Okay.
So you find a shell cracker bed, and before they go deep, it can be key. It can be a really good area.
Now, I know some of the lakes that I fish on up in northern PA that are pretty clear and somewhat shallow. I've seen the brim bed. If it's shallow, you can spot them from a mile away because like you said, you can just see the lighter spots. It just circles of light spots as far as if you find a pretty good size of them or clump of them. And yeah, I can imagine bass. Yeah, it's those lakes are the same way. If you were drag something on the bottom, you're going to get muck, muck, muck. But then if you can drop it into one of those spots, it's going to be clean. Like you said, they really do clean it up.
And even in the sun, when they do start bedding the brim, they're on bed. That's a great, chatterbait or a crankbait, square bill across it. Or dragging a worm. There's numerous lures that work great on active brim beds, but that's another key to it. But with the winter fishing, that was just, I wanted to put that picture on there just to show that electronics.
Yeah.
If anybody who's just getting into fishing or upgrading electronics, I've been clueless. When you like, I got this unit that got all these features, and I don't know what the crap I'm seeing. But when you see something looks like surface of a golf ball, it's a brim bed, and if you see those white specks in it, that's fish, and it could be brim, but those are bass.
That's cool. That's definitely and it makes sense that in the wintertime when the brim aren't using them, if it's a clear spot, the bass are going to love it because they, like you said, they relate to that hard bottom. Like it's the same thing that when you're thinking about a road bed, it's that hard bottom that they're relating to there. So
right. And like and along a road bed, there's rock and piles of rock, culverts, and all those. So there's going to be dead areas of a road bed, and generally when you start seeing other structure features, whether it just be 6 or 8 rocks off to one side, that's I've seen fish, that's the best they got, so they hang out there. You know,
Right.
that's
I forget who I was just watching a video somewhere where they, had like an Olympic sized swimming pool, and they didn't put anything in there, so it was just empty, and then they put bass in there, and the bass were all spread out, but then they took, like, like you said, two or three basketball sized boulders, put them in that swimming pool, and every bass there went to those
Yep.
boulders, so
Yep.
they
it's
if
you know, it's just knowing the habits of what, just like deer hunting. You know, you can sit on a clear cut and have a rifle and reach out to 300 yards, you know, and yeah, you can kill deer. But everybody I know that's really successful deer hunting, they know exactly what they're doing at this time of the year. They know where they feed at. They know where they bed at. They know saddles, and it's just like read maps for fishing. When you have a point that, it tapers down, and it maybe has a saddle that goes to a hump out on the end, they generally like areas like that. You know, that little saddle, and knowing what they're doing at different times of the year is key to being successful. It takes most of the luck out of it when you know that stuff.
Right. Because at that point, you're not just shooting blank and hoping to stumble
Yeah.
across them. You're actually patterning them, and you're eliminating water, really, is what you're doing.
Exactly.
That you're not going to waste your time fishing places where they aren't,
Exactly. And that's key. You know, went to a tournament and had 4 days of practice and not doing, for 3 days, you're like, I've only caught 4 fish or 6, I've definitely not caught anything that's going to win it. But I have rolled out so much, and, and then the last day, you use your head, you put all that together with not in this area, not there's somewhere you haven't been, and this sounds like a general statement, but if you can put all that together, what they're not, the places they're not at, and look at a map and know what you're looking at, you figure out what I haven't checked creek mouths, or I haven't checked. Anyway, you can rule out a lot of stuff and know what to check next. That's that's what makes you successful, is putting all that puzzle together and putting the pieces of the puzzle that aren't working to the side for and going after the other places.
Gotcha. So, I guess I was going to ask you if any other baits. We talked about the fantasy swinger, so the wobble head. We talked about the spy bait. We talked about the okashira. You said, I think the spoon you were talking about. Did you say it was the Dixie Jet?
Yeah, Dixie Jet. It's like I said, 3-inch, 3/4 ounce, and this, I don't know if it matters, but it's a brass. It's made out of brass. But this one's got I think it's called cracked glass is the pattern. It's like a prism. That's my favorite one.
Okay, and I know
they have a gold one, they have a chrome one, they have painted colors, but that cracked glass seems to, and I'll put a feather, hook on it sometimes, and sometimes a little stinger hook on the head of it. But that on a spoon that size, a stinger hook generally becomes a pain in the butt. Yeah, it'll get wrapped up on your line. But a 3-inch, and I'll go up to a 5-inch.
Okay.
The reason being, anything in my experience, anything over a 5-inch in a kayak has too much pull, and it ends up pulling me to, it pulls me off my spot towards where I'm casting. And so the 3 to 5-inch has less torque when you're working it.
No, and I know
catches plenty of fish and big fish, but let a whole lot of this work.
I was going to mention, and for any folks who want a more in depth on working a spoon, I think when we first had you on, that was a majority of what we talked about.
Yeah,
I think we kind of dedicated that whole episode to spoons. So if you want more information on fishing a spoon, go dig back in the archives and find our first episode with Jim. If you just Google Bass Fishing for Noobs on YouTube and do Bass Fishing for Noobs Jim Ware, you'll find the original episode that we did with Jim, and where we talked in depth about spoons and how to work them and that kind of thing, and how to the other options. So
and this is the last bait I was going to talk about. It seems like these fish have gotten a little educated on the lake I fish with a spoon. Now I caught some fish on a spoon this year, but nothing like the past probably 3 or 4 years out there. And so this is a Picasso mate, and there's a lot of scrounger heads, but this is Picasso's, and it's a Sugin, is what they call it. Aaron Martin designed it, but 3/4 ounce. Let me get it right here.
Okay.
And it's got a short F bill, I think, but it's got the 6/0 hook. And what I'm using for the bait is a producer swimbait, which is made here in Georgia. I forget the name of the town he's in. It's in North Georgia, but let me see what it's called. It's called a pintail shad.
I was just going to say, it almost looks like a fluke kind of style bait.
Yeah, it's this thing is 6 1/4 inches.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you, when you pull this thing through the water, and it has this wobble on it, and you can feel. And I throw this on my Alabama rig rod, which is another great winter lure. You throw an A-rig down here, but I threw an A-rig this year. I caught 5 to 1 with throwing this thing.
Really?
With A-rig.
Wow. Okay.
Same deal. Seeing a school of fish like that, or even caught. They've been 3/4 ounce. I'll let it sink all the way to the bottom, and that bill on this Sugin gives the bait so much thump. You can, it's like thump, thump. You can feel it in your reel handle, and I'm just crawling it. I'm assuming 6 or 8 inches off the bottom, and it's doing this coming through, and it's an awesome bite, because when they hit, it's just like it's like something just grabbed it and held on to it, and you reel down, and an A-rig rod has it's like 7/10 is the length on it, but it's got a nice tip. It's a heavy action rod, but it's got a nice tip, and it'll just load up. You lean into it. I've got some videos on. I run a GoPro on my. I've got a fish now out of a blue sky.
I thought that looked like a blue sky in that picture with the fish. So
I'm getting old, man. So that elevated seat, and I've got the XI3 on it with a 10-point GPS, and it just. I thought, if I'm going to fish motorized tournaments, why not? That's like being on the deck of a bass boat. But anyway, that scrounger, I caught a lot of big fish this year throwing it, Hardly anybody throws it around here.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say I would think that would be something that's probably not as popular. I mean, I've heard of people throwing it, but definitely nothing like they
Right.
probably see a ton of A rigs, and like you said, spoons probably they're getting used to, but that's probably
Yeah.
not something they see a ton of.
Yeah, and those scroungers are popular on ledge fishing on Tennessee rivers in the summertime. There was some big tournaments won on it, and I forget that bait that became super popular with a scrounger. Lord, I can't think of it. Jerky J.
Okay.
So that was the people, and a lot of that's everybody I know that throws a scrounger puts a Jerky J on it, and a Jerky J works. But I'll tell you this doggone pintail shad, it's got the look and enough movement to it. It works great.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll throw a 3/4 ounce, down to say 25 feet. I'll let it sink all the way to the bottom and just pull it right off the bottom. But also, that bill is big enough that you can pull it for suspended fish, because I caught quite a few fish this year after I would see the bait ball and fish in it, and I just throw it out past the bait ball, and as soon as it hit the water, start swimming it, and it would sink down and come through at say 12 feet, 12, 15 feet, and I caught fish doing that too. But,
Gotcha. Okay.
and I would throw a 1/2 ounce scrounger head for, say for if I was fishing, the bottom was 15 feet. I'd probably put a 1/2 ounce on that. But
Gotcha.
Same bait, same setup.
Okay.
And I'm throwing that A-rig rod. I had 20 pound on it, but I've got 17 throwing this thing. I put 17 on it. I can keep it deeper, and that's heavy enough line.
Mostly and straight fluoro.
Yeah,
for the most. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the 20 pound, I can keep it on the bottom, but it wanted to rise up off the bottom, that heavier line. With the 17, I don't have any problem.
Gotcha. Okay. So, well, that definitely gives folks quite a few options to maybe give it a try in this colder water. Because I know you're right. A lot of people do shy away from it. But from what I've heard and just the few fish that I have caught, they have been quality fish. So I think you do tend to find nicer fish in the wintertime. Now, like up here, I have I just don't see many people out on the water. I don't know if they think that I'm one of the few crazy people. Now, I do see more bass boats, but kayakers, I haven't seen a kayaker on the water yet with aside from the buddy that I went out with yet this year. Everybody, I've seen quite a few bass boats, but no kayakers. Now, up here, we have to, I wear a dry suit 9 times out of 10, just because it's, the water temperature is pretty cold, and if you fall in, it could be a bad deal. So I don't know if that drives people away, but I like to encourage the folks that I know that do have them. I was like, if you can get out safely, do it. Because there is a chance to catch really nice bass. So.
Right. It seems like all the big fish school up together, at least down here. When you find a school of fish, it's not where I fish at. It's not like even at Del Hollow. There was a school, and they were all 18 to, I think my biggest one was 20 and a half. It was like birds of a feather flock together. All of them was about the same size.
Yeah.
And you're talking about not seeing anybody on the water. That week I took off in December. I did Del Hollow, and then I went to a lake up in North Georgia. It's called Lake Burton, and we've got the Georgia state record Alabama bass, spotted bass, came from it. It was 8 pounds 2 ounce. And
Okay.
they have trout in that lake. And there's a hatchery, trout hatchery, actually on the lake that they use for, they stock all these little streams up in north,
Mhm.
but they also stock that lake. So with the combination of the trout and the blueback herring that's been introduced in there, these spotted bass just get really big. So I went up there and I was catching those fish. Oh, there's one more bait I was going to show you.
All right.
I kept this thing for a secret. For about
Here you go,
2.5
guys. Some juice.
I mean, I might have told a buddy of mine, here and there, but I sat on this thing until I fished with the dugout bait tackle come on their team. And I was talking to Jamie Koza, who owns a place, and I said, hey, you need to get these jackall deracoups in. And he said, okay. He said, well, you're going to have to spill the beans, to get the word out so people will buy them. I said, okay. That was one of the hardest things I thought I ever did. I did a YouTube video last year and throwing this thing. So they come in a half ounce. This is it. All it is a souped up Little George, is what I say.
Okay.
Japanese
Yeah.
Little George. And this one's a half ounce. And then they got 3/4 and then they got a 1 ounce.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, Sean, this thing's powerful. They eat it. And it's it's, like I said on for like 2.5 years. I caught so many and big fish. It's a little bitty bait. I mean, you get an 8-pounder, with this little thing in its lip. That was what was amazing. But it's a jackall deracoup, and I throw the same deal with the weight as with the wobble head. 30 to 40, 1 ounce, 20 to 18 to 30, 3/4, and anything shallower than that half ounce.
Okay.
I throw it with my crankbait rod. And,
Okay.
That's just throw it out there past the school, let it sink to the bottom. I give it one pop and start reeling. You can feel the little blade spinning on it. And, you can throw it so far. So probably twice during the retrieve, I'll let it drop to the bottom just to see how, if the bottom's tapering deeper, or, just to see how close to the bottom I was. And then I'll pick it back up and try to keep it at that same around, I would say 2 feet, 1 to 2 feet off the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You pull that thing through a school. They eat. So that was the I love that. I love that bait, man.
Well, that's cool. I've seen those before, and like I've seen them on the Japanese sites before, and I think I might even have some cheap knockoffs of those, but the ones I have are pretty small. But
right, yeah, Demiki makes one. Actually, I've caught fish on that. It's got like a modified willow leaf on it. It's a really fat willow leaf blade. And I've caught fish on that, but I think 13's got a tail spinner now. There's a lot of, but that one right there was, I keep going. About 3 years ago, I ordered every one of them I saw on Tackle Warehouse, just to try them out. Jackall. To me, that's the best one.
okay. It's well, cool. I definitely will try that out too, because like there's spots where I think that would be money, just from what I've seen, similar baits that I've thrown that, seem to do okay, and
I got a buddy. He fishes bass boat club tournaments around here, and him and his wife team up on it. And I told him about it. He's like, "What are you catching those big old fish on?" I told him, I said, "Jackall deracoup." And I said, "He get some." So he got them, and he's not. He don't like fishing deep water. When he's gonna fish when it's warm. Well, he won a tournament over on Gunnersville, throwing that half-ounce one, ripping it out of the grass in the springtime. So
okay,
we've got a tournament coming up, Bass Nation, 2 weeks, I think, from now on Gunnersville, and everybody's throwing trap, throwing a lipless over there. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that one in it too, just to see.
yeah, it might just be enough of a difference that if they've seen the lipless for 3 days of practice, and all of a sudden you come in with one of those, something they haven't seen, I could see where that'd be good. So
maybe nobody that. Maybe there's not anybody fishing that tournament's going to watch this.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably work.
Well, hopefully. Yeah, this will air this Monday, or actually tomorrow. So hopefully not too many people get clued into it, but we'll see what happens. So,
but yeah, when I go out, I'll have a drop shot rod on my boat, crankbait rod with the deracoup on it, Alabama rig rod with that
scrounger,
scrounger.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another crankbait rod I throw my spoon on, a little heavier crankbait. As a matter of fact, it's a 7. It's 4 throwing like really big crankbaits. That's what I throw a spoon on. And then spinning rod with for small swim baits, and I'll have that okashira on there, or I'll have just a Picasso makes a tungsten ball head jig, and I'll put a 3-3 Kitech on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most simple bait in the world, and it's dead. Just a small swim bait. So
cool. Well, that
definitely.
Yeah,
electronics. Just go out, see. Even a small lake, just if you are confident on one lake, that's the one you need to spend the most time on, because I'll tell you, what you see on that lake is going to transfer to Shreveport, Louisiana. Knowing what a roadbed looks like here that I saw on my electronic, I went to Shreveport for a national championship a few years ago, and I was fishing a lake that would have the least amount of cypress trees in it, because I'm not familiar with that. And I found a daggum roadbed out there in the middle of the lake in an old bridge, and it was absolutely covered up with fish. I caught a 23.5 on day 1 off that thing.
Wow.
But anyway, just get back to that. Find a lake you're familiar with, that you're confident with. Get out there with your electronics. Go around looking at, observe bait. Look for those fish that's going to be close in the general area, and it will transfer over to just about any lake you go to fish. And go with your gut on that.
I think
confidence is key.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if anything that gives you confidence, and if you can build that confidence and be super confident in what you're seeing is what you're seeing,
exactly.
And know for sure, yes, I found the fish. Now it's just a matter of figuring out what they want to eat.
Yeah. And then you just go fishing. It all depends on that little sucker down there on the bottom that's got a head the size of an English pea. A brain the size of a pea. If he's wanting to play that day.
Yep.
That's key.
Yep. Well, Jim, thank you again so much. That's a ton of great information, and for I hopefully that will give folks some some confidence in a time of year when confidence is key, because it isn't super easy fishing at times, and knowing what to look for, and then different options to throw at them is super helpful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
I wanted to give you a chance to shout out where folks can find you, and also any sponsors that you wanted to list as well. I knew
Okay,
I see a lot of your stuff on Dugout Bait and Tackle, so I knew you were big with those
yeah,
guys.
yeah. So Facebook, Jim Ware, Instagram, and I've even got a little TikTok deal.
Awesome.
I've put some, but it's all fishing. Anything, not anything stupid. But and then my YouTube page is all river goat kayak fishing. Little short story with that river goat. I was gonna have a guide service about 6 or 8 years ago, and so I named it River Goat, and that's where that came from. But I'm no longer a guide. It lasted about a year, and I absolutely had zero customers. Nobody wanted to pay. They want to go fishing. They didn't want to pay. But so that's where you can find me on social media.
Okay.
Dugout Bait and Tackle. That's, I say east of the Mississippi River. I don't know. I hadn't been west, and hadn't been north too far, but you can't go wrong. That they rig kayak rigging to the max. I mean, pimp out. If you've seen on their social media some of the rigs that they've rigged out, it's amazing. And Jamie Cozen, the crew down there know exactly what they're doing, and they'll take care of you. They've got lots of connections, and they'll take care of it. If you buy something from them, it's they're in it with you. If you have problems, they're going to get it fixed. Jackson Kayak, I'm on with them, and that Blue Skies, the most stable thing I've been on. I've been in a lot of different kayaks, and I've been doing this for a long time. And that thing it's my favorite so far. But so Jackson Kayak, Tasso Lures, they make a lot of great baits. And matter of fact, the factory is right there in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the town. It's I can't remember the name of the town. It's between Pittsburgh and I went to a tournament at Prescott Bay several years ago, and it was between Pittsburgh and Erie.
Okay.
About halfway.
Yeah.
Up in that area.
Okay.
There's some lake up there. It's got a really big largemouth in it. That those guys with Picasso fishing. But anyway, Picasso is a great bait. Shimano and G Loomis. So that's about it. I'm just having fun. That's I ain't gonna make a living doing this stuff, but man, it's so much fun.
I hear you, man. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what keeps us just coming back for more, and why we do what we do and love to talk about it and go out and fish, and definitely what keeps me going for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Jim. Well, thanks again so much. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you all those tips and techniques, spilling us the juice on the jackal. Because that's going to be fun to try, the deracoup. So I look forward to giving that a try. Guys, I'm going to make sure and I list all of the baits that we talked about tonight, and all Jim's social media, and his sponsors too. So if you're interested in checking any of that out, just scroll down in the show notes. Whether you're finding us on Facebook or YouTube, the notes should be there with links and everything to all the things we've mentioned tonight. So make sure you hop on there and check that out. Jim, again, thanks again so much for coming on, and appreciate all the info, and look forward to having you back again sometime. All right.
Okay, yeah, that is my pleasure, man. I
All
enjoyed
right,
it a
man.
lot. Thank you.
No problem. Well, guys, this has been another episode of Bass Fishing for Noobs here on the Paddle and Fin podcast, where we bring you the trips that I messed it up, the techniques, the tricks, and the tips to help you rip more lips. You guys have a good night.
See ya.
See ya. Where's my closer? I lost my closer video. We'll cut that part out.